say it's love.
Top Secret, Homeland Security, 2019, November 20. Notice of declassification from Harlan French, Chief, Division 6. Subject, Top Secret. Notice of partial release of unclassified information on the said failed experiment performed by Meteor Heavy Industries. Call sign, Shaken. 1. Unclassified. Some information obtained during the debriefing of Kirigami Yukito, aka Kiri, Kito 818 Yukito, and his experiences before, during, and after the said botched experiment. 2. Unclassified. Some names of related and unrelated people, either by first, last, or both names, or by call sign, serial number, or both. 3. Classified. Some names of unrelated persons, either by first, last, or both names at the discretion of some or all of the document's contributors. 4. Top Secret. My, Harlan French's, said involvement in this case as Director of Testing Affairs at Meteor Heavy Industries during the said failed attempt to create a quantum network. 5. Top Secret. Specifics on the equipment, part numbers, and some descriptions of its design. Classified by ID number 54632. Top Secret. The following is a mixture of transcriptions from the debriefings of Kirigami Yukito, also known as Kiri Kito 818 Yukito, and documents, emails, and other forms of communication sent to and received by the above. Some of the original documents included below were redacted before their addition to this file. Non-redacted copies can be obtained with the proper security clearance by contacting Harlan French, Chief of Division 6. Prologue. It's funny how things in life end up turning out. I wanted this to happen. I wanted the escape. Of the 25,000 people who wanted something fun, I wanted an escape. I wanted to fight for my survival, not to have it handed to me. My responsibilities in life were to flip hamburgers, make sure to not burn them, and make people fat. Clean the store, go home. Stay up late, piddle around, maybe read a bit, go to sleep, wake up, and make more people fat. This wasn't my life, but it was. Do you know what I mean? I've had these dreams, these so-called fantasies. Real or not, I knew my life was supposed to mean something, but it never did. I wanted to die knowing that the world had changed because of my life. I didn't care if people knew it or not. I wasn't out for fame or glory, just some pride in myself. And that's hard to find with a spatula in your hand for a living. I had a girlfriend, been with her for 4 years now. We were engaged to be married next year, but even that didn't make me feel worthwhile. The hardest part of all of this was that I knew I had the ability, but not the ear or the money. No ear willing to listen to my ideas in my head, no money to make them come to life on my own. Machines fabricated themselves in my brain. I could understand their purpose and explain them, but no one outside of my close friends would listen to them. When I was younger, I didn't have the patience for school. It's not that it was hard, but too easy. I didn't have to do homework to get good grades on the test, but the teachers didn't care about the test results anymore. They wanted to see me do the redundant homework. Why? I couldn't understand it. I had all the skills to complete the tasks, so why do the homework when I can show up for the tests and ace them? Those thoughts coupled with ADD made me just go off the wall constantly. My number of interest was explosively high. Anything could grab me and make me want to learn more. That did not exclude school, or the hundreds of other things my brain would jump to. This was ultimately my biggest setback in life. My hatred of redundant, mindless tasks made me pass up things like homework, and my ADD created a randomness that couldn't be solidified into just a few interest categories. I became under-disciplined and over-diversified. Focus wasn't an issue in the normal scope that others thought to look for. I could focus on one task for hours, but when I did eventually go to sleep, when I woke up the next morning, I was a shot out of a gun on something else. I had one steadfast thing in life, and that was music. Eventually it got so bad that you couldn't see me without headphones on. I would listen in class, out of class, on the bus, in bed, when I was reading. When I was having a conversation with someone, I would listen to them with one ear and in the other was an earbud. It wasn't out of disrespect, though no doubt many took it that way, but my dedication to it couldn't be broken. When teachers complained about seeing the wires in the players, I got creative. I taught myself how to use a soldering iron, found old telephone cord in the house that I could strip the wires out of, and modified my existing earbuds and extending the cables to run complex routes under or through special holes in my clothes to hidden devices. What I may have lacked in strict discipline, I made up for in creativity, ingenuity, my thirst for learning of new things, and my desire to read. I wasn't afraid of learning new things, but I wanted to learn them fast. The schools were too slow for me. They spent too much time on simple tasks and nothing was ever a challenge. And a challenge was what I desperately wanted. My whole being craved something that was so intensely difficult it could result in serious consequences. I wasn't stupid enough to rob a bank, though the idea seemed entertaining, but the thought of being locked in a prison cell for several years kept me away from doing the wrong thing, for the most part. Hey, my music addiction didn't feed itself, you know. Anyway, years without discipline made it impossible for me to get through the college environment, and eventually I flunked out. Tried a bunch of things, but ultimately bombed it all. When I failed out of an online class for attendance, I decided to give it up. I was stuck doing nothing and going nowhere. That little sheet of paper was a mythical being capable of granting access to amazing doors in life, but the stress of getting one was incredible. In the end, instead of a grand engineer changing the world, I was another failure residing in it. My creations were going to waste sitting in my brain, but never reaching a worthwhile ear. Nowhere to go to lessen my stress, I finally decided to try a new game. Looked like fun, it was in my interest catalog and something that I could get into. Even better, it was free, wouldn't even have to illegally obtain it. This would be where I would disappear to. I would escape my life to try my hand at another. A good opportunity, I thought. I was even reading a book about how some new tech trapped 10,000 people in some virtual world for 2 years, where they played for keeps. Die in the virtual world, you'll die in the real one. All I could think of while reading the book was how lucky they were for the chance to try living a different life. You got a choice there, make a difference or die trying. By the end of the book, only 60% made it out alive, but only 10% were willing to fight to get out. The rest, paralyzed by fear, couldn't bring themselves to get close to death like the others, by getting out on the front lines. If I was in their shoes, I think I would have fought on the front lines, but I wouldn't have ever wanted to get out. When the new game was announced years ago, I jumped on it, registered right then and there. Couldn't wait. When we finally got our notice announcing the closed beta, I couldn't wait to get in on it. I thought we'd be getting another email telling us to click on some link and go from there. But instead, I got a box from the company. They sent a complete rig for the beta test. At the time, I thought they just wanted to make sure the results from the beta weren't contaminated by people's stupidity and complaints because their own equipment wasn't good enough. In with the rig were instructions on what to do with the rig, and I found out right away it was more than just a way to avoid stupid complaints. The rig was impressive at first sight. It was even my favorite color, too. It was black, like it should be. It matched my heart at the time. It matched what I thought my future looked like. You were there, too, at the start of it all. What was going on in your head when you set up your rig for the first time? Suki looked out at the wasteland for a minute before she responded. My life was a little bit different than yours, but an emotion I was all too familiar with played out on her face, an emotion that I recognized all too well at this point. But I can't say I was upset the same way the others were either. I felt similar to you when I found out what this game really was. I read that same book. My thoughts were not much different from yours, so I was glad when I ended up here. We sat there for a while, staring at the waste in front of us. The sound of the overly industrialized city below just couldn't block out our thoughts, nor could it spoil our view from the 137th floor of the recently raised office building. The second sun might have been setting on a wasteland, but that didn't make the view any less breathtaking for either of us. For us, it was symbolic, as if the sun was setting on our old lives of mundane irritation, the life of screaming behind a smile. Maybe it was just symbolic of our lives' ending period. Whichever it was, we would find out tomorrow, most likely. I wasn't disappointed with what I'd done here, and while I really didn't want it to end, one way or another, tomorrow it would. And that was for the better. Suki's life was forever changed, and so was mine. It sounded cliched to say that there was no going back, but for us, it wasn't like that to begin with. We didn't want to go back. That's probably why we found each other's company so easy in the first place. That's why we stayed sane. It's why we kept fighting. This place was and wasn't alien to us. We called it home. It was not where we were born. Maybe this could be considered our vacation home, though most others would call us crazy just because of the environment alone, not even mentioning the practical risks. In reality, though, we were in two places at once, in two homes at once. If someone were really to look at us, we were probably lying on a table or a bed somewhere with who knows how many tubes running to our body. And with all the equipment needed to maintain our status, the noise from the machines themselves probably sounded a lot like the city below us. But that world where our bodies were, that world was no longer the real world for us, and we had no desire to return to it, even if we could. Hi guys, I'm the big scary guy. I'm going to be reading today on this channel quite a bit. There are 4 books that I have the copyrights to that I plan on turning into audibles on YouTube for you. I am not a professional narrator. I've never done this before, but there are 4 books that you can't get anywhere else. I'm also taking part in another YouTube channel project, and I figured if I'm doing that, I might as well do this too. Why should I withhold an audible from you guys that you might come to enjoy? I will warn you that the first 2 or 3 chapters of this book are a little bit harder to follow, so I'll try to release everything from the prologue to the 3rd chapter as quickly as possible and get the 4th chapter out to you as soon as I can. I will be trying to do as few edits as possible because I don't really want to seem like a recorded or practiced inhuman production system. I want to show you that I'm a real person just like you, and that you can do this too. Just find something that's special about you and bring it to YouTube. People will naturally fall in line. I'm going out on a limb and doing this myself. These books are mine. I wrote them. I spent 3 years of my life writing 4 novels that are all part of the same series, and I'm going to read them all here. I wanted to get them published, but I just didn't feel right about it. It didn't seem like it was the venue for me. Putting books in a bookstore is nice, but not in this century. Everybody likes things to be mobile. They like them to be quick and on demand, easy to access. And audibles are pretty damn popular because of it. So I decided, what can I do with my books to try to encourage the same thing? Well, I thought, what if I read them on YouTube? I could produce audibles on YouTube and make a small amount of money. That's why there are some ads in this video, and I hope you'll forgive me for them, but I spent $35 on each of these books to get them copywritten. If I make that $35 back on each of these books, I'll have felt that my investment was worthwhile, all 3 years of it. I didn't write for you, honestly. I wrote for me. I wanted to write, and so I sat down and I started writing. I am heavily ADD. My brain bounces quite a bit, and it is very hard for me to stay focused on a task that I just don't have any interest in. If it's not challenging, I won't be interested in it for very long. This is challenging though. It's almost embarrassing. I've got to go out in front of the world and put myself out in a way that could bring severe public ridicule. People that I know could come out and address me in public and laugh at me. And you know what? Go for it. I don't care. What I want is for everybody to be able to do this. I was talking to somebody online the other day, and we were discussing the difference between people in reality and on the internet. And ultimately, my feelings on that matter are expressed as thus. People on the internet act so much differently because the way that they were raised is different than the way that they really feel. And they're too embarrassed to express themselves in the real world to people they actually know. And that's just wrong. There is something to be said about the way that you were raised. You were probably raised a specific way for a specific reason. Your family, for whatever reason, is in a certain position and they choose to raise you in the same way of the position that they're currently in. But if that's not you, then don't be that. If it is you, then act as such. There is no point in fantasizing about being a different person, acting a different way, or having a different personality. What I want to encourage is that you act the same way on the internet that you would in reality, and vice versa. And thus, the embarrassment game. Could you act the way that you do in a chat room out in public? Who knows? Are you up for my challenge? Do it. I am. Here I am, in front of the world, in front of people that will eventually see this that I know in my daily life. And I'll admit, I'm kind of curious. I'm a little afraid and embarrassed. But you know what? I'm the big scary guy, and I'm going to do it anyways. Have a nice day, YouTube.